Donald Ojogo joins us. He's a former commissioner for information in Ondo State. He's now the House of Reps candidate. He's moving on. He's since left that. Good morning, Donald. Thank you for joining us. First of all, commiserations to you and everyone else out there. Quite a very disturbing scenario that played out only yesterday. What can you tell us concerning the latest development on this matter?
Good morning, Chamberlain. I want to thank you for commiserating with us. Well, yesterday was very horrific. The situation as it is still appears like a dream to most of us in the States. If you recall that the governor had to call short his stay in Abuja to rush back to Owo. We were all with him there and we witnessed what had happened. This is a very dastardly act, highly reprehensible, despicable, and nothing can be more barbaric than what had happened. It's a murderous act that can be described in the best form of man's disapproval to what had happened. As it is, it's like a war. It's a war situation because nothing like that had happened in the Southwest. And starting with Ondo State, particularly the hometown of the governor, calls for very great concern. But as it is, we believe strongly that the security agencies, as at yesterday, swung into action and have been on the trail of these murderers, and quite some actionable intelligence must have been gathered by the collaborating security agencies, which I am not competent to even disclose details about.
You know, Donald, what can you tell us about why this happened? I mean, this is much unlike some scenarios that we've seen before, wherein farmers are attacked and then they cite different reasons, or they attack people in certain localities in their homes because sometimes they think they want to sack them and take over the area. But this is a church where people were worshiping. Do you have any information as to why this may have happened?
Well, I may not have any information. Whatever information one might want to have, I am not a security man, could just be that rudimentary information that gets to everybody. But the truth of the matter is that we do not need to scramble to know why it had happened. What has happened is a terror attack. It's an attack by terrorists. We don't want to call them bandits. They are terrorists. And the government and the security agencies know that they are terrorists. So we shouldn't belabor ourselves trying to know why it has happened. Because it has always happened in several areas, but because it is happening in this part of our country, we believe strongly that there is a heinous plan by terrorists, whether they are from outside this country or from within the country, to externalize violence across the country. But the danger to this is this. There is a twin possible consequence. One, it is a possible recipe for religious crisis because it happened in the church, in the house of God. And it is also a possible recipe for inter-ethnic crisis. And that is what we pray against. Because inter-ethnic crisis, what happens? It leads to civil war. If that is what people are building upon, I think it will be most unfortunate for this country. But everybody has a duty to ensure that security is made the responsibility of everybody. We have to be vigilant. Security agencies have to be more effective. They have to be more encouraged. For instance, we felt bad yesterday when we got to know that the police was unable to get there. Well, they are also human beings. They also have their limitations and their challenges. But where challenges are unavoidable, we continue to marvel at the situation. The complaint was that the police was not able to get vehicles to that place on time. They came into that place, stayed and shot at people for over 20 minutes, and no security agency was able to get to that place. This calls for concern, and one of the high points of this very unfortunate incident underscores the fact that there is no time Nigeria needs state police than now. We must deepen and take policing to the grassroots. And that is what Nigeria, that is where Nigeria should head now. It will rather strengthen our federalism. It will rather encourage people to be more effective. It will rather make security and policing more efficient and more effective in the country. So to those of us who believe that true federalism should be practiced in all ramifications, there is no time that is right than now for state police to be put in place.
Well, there's so many unspoken lines in some of the words that you have said. But I'd like you to give us, I don't know if there has been a very clear description of what transpired. Some people spoke about a bomb blast before there were gunshots. Do we have a clearer picture of what truly transpired yesterday in Owo?
But there's a clear evidence that explosives were also used. But after the explosives, I think from what we gathered from some of the survivors, they said while they were running outside, because as a result of the explosives that were detonated in the complex, they were just being shot at. So it was in the course of the stampedes that most of these persons died. I think as at yesterday, the number of casualties was 21, but so many other persons are on danger list. As at yesterday, it was 21 officially.
Let's flip this to Lagos now.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Ojogo. Very, very disturbing event. But can you give us a sense of the terrain? Because if they came in with dynamite and the guns, in fact, reports say that they also shot people outside the church. Why? Yeah. That means that they must have operated for some time. Even if you don't have answers, you know, it begs the question, how come they had so much time to operate yet unchallenged? What's the distance between that church and the nearest police station? Perhaps you have answers to these questions.
I wasn't in that vicinity. We got there much later after the incident at the court. So it cannot be in my place to say how and why they had to operate unchallenged for that period, for almost upward to 20 minutes or so, between 20 and 30 minutes, according to the survivors. Well, the nearest police station to that place, I think, is almost 2 kilometers. It can be up to 2 kilometers. Because I know there's a police post opposite, if not adjacent, the palace of the Olowo. And this thing happened behind the palace of the Olowo. So it's about 1.5 or 2 kilometers, approximately.
Also, Ondo is not new to attacks. I recall Oba Israel Adewusi was killed some years back. In fact, a traditional ruler in Owo too was killed some years back. And there have been attacks and kidnappings. There have been some survivors who have been able to tell the story. For instance, when Elewere, one of the traditional rulers in Owo, was killed, another was attacked but was said to have survived the story, survived the incident rather. When these survivors are debriefed, what intelligence do security operatives in Ondo State gather that may give us a sense of the new dimension to attacks in Ondo State, like what happened in Owo yesterday?
Well, it does appear that this is a heightened form of violence that has been visited on Ondo State. Yes, these instances you made reference to, they are true, but this never happened before. But it is also not as if the security agencies went to sleep. Some arrests were made, and that is one key area where our own homegrown security outfit, the Amotekun, actually played a very key role. There have been several actionable efforts as a result of intelligence gathering by the Amotekun and other sister security agencies in the state. But those are things we cannot come to the public to discuss. One, we are not privy, particularly myself, I may not be privy to details of the content of the intelligence that have been gathered and the efforts that have been put in place so far for actionable attempts may not also be at my own disposal. So it doesn't go to it doesn't reflect the fact that the security agencies have not done enough. They have done enough. But this particular instance, this particular incident is one too many. It's one that has taken everybody by surprise. And let me also tell you, but for the efforts of the security agencies, particularly our own Amotekun, maybe Ondo State would have been worse, because it was, from what we gathered and from what we have observed in the last 1 or 2 years, Ondo State have been targeted for attack. But because of the heightened efforts put in place by Amotekun that have been able to nip some of these efforts or some of these attempts by murderers in the board. But this particular one took everybody by surprise. The timing is also very curious. The operation, when it happened, also caused for concern. That is, it happened when the governor was in Abuja on national assignment. And mind you, Mr. Governor is the chairman of the Security and Compliance Subcommittee of the national convention that is going on currently, and particularly in our own party. Well, so he was there with the chief of Amotekun, and this happening in his hometown caused for concern. That is where our worry even lies.
And it's actually my own concern as well, Mr. Ojogo. You've been in government before, former Commissioner for Information, and we know that, of course, security information is usually shared, and of course, you've just said now that there are some things you cannot say on television. But what is curious here for me, and I continue to maintain my confidence in our intelligence community of their ability to get ahead of the issues. Now, I would have expected, and a good number of people perhaps, that would have information ahead of this and be able to get ahead of it so it doesn't happen in the first place, and then we cannot be having the kind of conversation which unfortunately we have to have just to raise the issues. There are those who are wondering, God forbid that this happens again, who knows where next? So was there a way that we could have gotten ahead of this by getting the information ahead? It is curious because the governor said, and you have also corroborated the same thing, it came completely unexpected. If we had intelligence information that this was going to happen, could this have happened? Are you disappointed that we didn't know it was going to come out before it did?
Well, you have also answered the question, because nobody would have had opportunity of getting intelligence as regards this and would allow this to happen in the first place. Even as non-security experts, as non-security actors, this wouldn't have happened if persons or people were aware that it was going to happen. Even if the intelligence community, as much as they have tried, was aware that this was going to happen, or they didn't act as fast as we desired or we wished. It's not for me to say on television. I know that quite a lot was put in place before this thing happened. It may not be specifically pinpointed to that particular Saint Francis Catholic Church. But for almost 6 months, there has been a curious scenario that security agencies were working up. I'm aware of that. I may not want to give details. But, it was over almost 6 or 7 months. But because time had lapsed, the people may have perhaps thought that it was not going to happen again. We had this fear sometimes in the middle or mid last year, or maybe last year, late last year, that there was going to be an attack on the state. So it was a proactive move on the part of the security agencies. We were all aware that they were planning to attack the state, and that resulted in the heightened security architecture and measures that were put in place by the state government. So we thought everything was over because things were going on seamless. Shortly after that, alarm was raised in the security circle and in that enclosed circle. But I think the most important thing is that lessons have been learned, because it is still a surprise to all of us. That is, I'm confused as I'm talking to you.
Okay. And it is understandable, Mr. David Ojogo. Thank you so much for your perspectives this morning, and we hope that the coming days will give us some of those answers that we all seek from various angles. David Ojogo, former commissioner for... Donald Ogo, my apologies, former commissioner for information in Ondo State. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Okay. More to come after this break. Don't go away.
Aaron Atimas joins us next. He is the publicity secretary of the APC in Taraba State. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, clearly, all eyes, particularly those of your party, will be focusing on today, tomorrow, possibly the day after, given what is expected to happen, the emergence of the presidential candidate of your party. And there's been several, negotiations, horse trading, which we'll imagine will go until the last minute. So, from your perspective, in consideration of all that you've seen, several meetings, where do you see this headed?
Well, generally speaking, of course, we already are hearing news and permutation is heading south. That's number one. Since it's heading south, now the focus now to narrow it to which particular person.
You're sure it's heading south?
Well, of course, most of the stakeholders have decided that it should head south. The governors have decided. Most Nigerians are speaking. The northerners are also saying that there should be fairness. So if it's a rotation between the north and the south, it should go south. So it is heading south. So where in south in particular is now the issue. Of course, there are some candidates to the south, south and the southwest. But of course, the initial journey started with a lot of weight from the southwest. Of course, the mergers between the ACM, which is the biggest margin party at that time, with 5 governors and others. Of course, also the south and the southeast, they were also in the mix. But then most people tend to look at southwest as the most formidable rotational point.
But haven't also seen those different groups, the meetings that they've held, depending on what they eventually agree. Yes, we've heard the president and read his speech as well in terms of what he expects of the people. Sure. Could you break it down for us to be a little more specific? When he seeks support of the people to help him at least take that next step, what specifically is he asking for?
Well, you see, the president, as everybody knows, is a nationalist. He loves this country. He wants peace. He wants a peaceful transition. He wants Nigerians to speak as Nigerians, not based on where they come from. And that's why all his concern is that there should be a transition in such a manner that will be satisfactory.
Yeah, and understand that. Is he saying, look, I have a candidate that I prefer.
Yeah.
So I want you all, stakeholders, delegates, maybe starting from immediate stakeholders, probably governors, and then convince your people that, look, this is who I want. I'd like you all to queue up behind this person. Is that the kind of thing he's talking about?
Well, the president has not made his position known.
Yeah, I'm asking, when he says he wants support, is that the kind of support?
It's the kind of support. He expects Nigerians to be very matured in their choice of what they want to do. That is what he wants. Because as president, of course, he's for everybody. So now it's left for Nigerians to look at themselves and see what is the most everything. Yes, sure. What is it?
Nigerians.
Nigerians, of course, and APC in particular. All right? Now, so the president wants the APC members to be very, very matured in their choice. Of course, he will not say who he wants, but those who have stayed or worked closely with him should be able to understand his body language.
He won't say who he wants to, those who are watching, or to the key people in the party?
He has not narrowed himself to any particular candidate. But those who work with him, he should not. He should not. He trusts Nigerians, especially senior members of the party, to decide the best way forward. And so he will not tell them. But those who have worked with him already know his body language. They should know the kind of person that he should want and Nigerians should want. So that is just it.
Why does it seem that there is, you know, why is there always so much talk around what the president wants, who the president is deciding upon? Some people will say it's a democracy. Shouldn't it be as open as what we saw in the PDP?
Well, sure, APC is also open. Like I said earlier, the president has not made any particular choice. That's number one. And you understand there's a lot of rancor in our politics in Nigeria.
I mean, he wants to.
He wants to make a choice? No, the president only steps in when there appears to be some kind of rancor. People are not agreeing to cooperate in such a manner that everything was done in a hassle-free manner. So that's why he's there as a leader. When people are not agreeing immediately on certain things, and that could create some kind of chaotic situation, he will step in as a leader to say, hey, take it easy, take it easy. Now, I want you to now reason and see the best way forward. That is his role as a leader. Of course, he's not expected to make a choice of who he wants, because as a Nigerian, it is the choice of Nigerians who they want to rule the country. So one person, he does not decide for Nigeria. He's been quite democratic enough. But it is when there's so much rancor and hassles that he comes in to try to sanitize the situation or the movement itself. So that is the reason why he talks at some point.
Yes. You know, I'm actually looking for the president's last statement, because it doesn't seem to support the statement that you have made when he spoke to the governors, when he met with APC governors recently, just last week. He did say something about reciprocity, that he has been there was an internal policy of the party which allowed governors who had only done the first term to pick up their return tickets for another tenure, and for those who were leaving as governors to promote successors. And it was saying that the president was asking them to allow him do same.
Okay.
Did you read that statement?
So you are now trying to say that perhaps
I'm not the one trying to say. I'm saying that the stance which you're taking about him not wanting to pick a successor seems to negate what the president himself has said.
I thought you are trying to interpret what the president is saying in that statement. You are trying to interpret, but he does not really mean that. All he is concerned about is a peaceful...
It doesn't mean what he says?
No, he is concerned about peaceful transition. You know that for the past 1 year, there have been a lot of arguments for and all those coming out, even in the north, even when it is assumed that all Nigerians know that naturally there should be a zoning policy in the country. Nigerians already know about that. But still, there are some people who emboldened themselves to come out in the north and contest for the presidency. But of course, some people have reasons why they want to contest, and it is not really perhaps maybe because they want to win election. Maybe they want to be in the new policy of the incoming government or something, and they try to create some opportunities for themselves going forward. But then the issue is that the president wants a peaceful transition, and he wants the best, and that is all
he said as much. I mean, he was very clear in terms of what he said. I mean, the statement is right here now. He was very clear in terms of what he said. Yes, he wants the transition to be orderly. Those were his words.
Sure.
He also said, number 10, it says, in keeping with established internal policies of the party, and as we approach the convention in a few days, I wish to solicit the reciprocity and support of the governors and other stakeholders in picking my successor, who would fly the flag of our party for election into the office of the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 2023.
But you know, the presidency has also issued a statement after this to indicate that the president had not made any particular choice about it.
Yes.
Of course, if you were president yourself, maybe you could have sympathy for those you are working with, but also he realizes that as president of Nigeria, the choice belongs to the people.
Indeed.
He cannot impose
if we are to go by what we have already seen the president do before, I mean, at the APC convention, the party convention, which saw the emergence of the current party chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, we knew it was not until the very last minute that the president's choice was confirmed in the person of Mr. Abdullahi Adamu. Isn't that, or Senator Abdullahi Adamu? Isn't that correct?
Sure.
So isn't that what we should be expecting? Because some people have also pointed at your dates. The fact that the convention, the primaries, which you're holding to select your presidential candidate, has come so close to when INEC's deadline for the submission of the names of candidates for the 2023 elections is. I mean, I think it's just the following day. Yeah. And you have left no room for negotiations or for any kind of maneuvering, so to speak. Isn't that in itself very strategic?
Well, I don't totally agree with you, because I was in Almakura's campaign at that time. I knew also about 6 other people who were gunning for national chairman APC of that time. There wasn't any sign of agreement amongst those 6 people at that time. And it was going to cause a lot of division within the party itself, because when people are very strong on their opinions, they don't want to give in, they don't want to negotiate on others. It only gives room for the president now to separate the people who are in this. So if the president came at that time, because there were a lot of issues in the media on the party itself, not being united, not organizing themselves, and it was going to create the kind of rancor that would divide Nigerians all along. So if he steps in at that point, there was nothing wrong with it.
Mr. Timbers,
yes.
Who would you like to see emerge?
Emerge? Well, of course, there are senior members of this party. Already, you know that Tinubu should be in the forefront as one of the leaders of the party in the Southwest. I'm not making it, I'm just analyzing as a member of this party, because he is, what do I call him? I call him a leadership coach, somebody who has brought people along, who has mentored a lot of people, and who has selected very, very responsible, educated Nigerians to lead this country.
Let's bring in our colleagues from Lagos. They've got questions for you as well.
Sure.
Yes, good morning, sir. As a follow-up, a very quick follow-up to Marquez's question. Yes, the president has said a lot of things. He said to consider party unity, build consensus in this latest meeting with the governors. But he didn't quite say much to corroborate the position of northern governors that the candidacy should not be zoned to the south. Is that something to be worried about? And does it mean, according to Marquez's suggestion, that he may pull a surprise during the party convention?
Well, there was never any single agreement by governors in the north that presidents should not move to the south. I think majority of them. In a house where you have more than 5, 10 people, if about 4 or 7 agree that the president should move to the south, I think it becomes majority view and the view of northern governors. To my understanding and what I have followed in the politics of recent, I agree, and I've come to confirm the fact really that most northern governors are opposed to the movement of the president to the south. And I think most of them are very mature, they are reasonable, they know how this journey started, and they know that having accepted the presidency coming to the north in 8 years, they should also agree naturally that it should move. It is fairness, the game of fairness. So most or majority of governors in the north, we're going to say everybody must agree, but most of them, 90% of them agree that the presidency should go to the south. And it is in the south as I speak to you. So the only thing is that for the south to put their acts together and produce a candidate that will be acceptable to all Nigerians. And we're good to go.
Well, still talking about percentages, you heard Chief Oyegun say after the screening committee completed their work, he said about 99% of those spoken to agree that they will go with any choice of the party except one person. So, and he also mentioned on tape that they have screened the numbers down to 13, suggesting perhaps that 10 have been taken out and only 13 remains. There is still that's still a little fuzzy, given that the party said that no one has been disqualified. Do you see a consensus candidate in play, or you see a contest among the candidates, since they seem not to have agreed to the consensus building the president asked for?
Nigerians want consensus, but you know, every candidate has his own people who are sponsoring him to that position. It depends on what the candidates want. But the issue is that, the struggle for power in Nigeria could be very intense at most times. Most people insist by all means that they must be in power. But naturally, we shouldn't be at this level. We shouldn't be having more than 7, 8, or 13 people contesting for presidency. This should come naturally, to my opinion, because now, if you agree that the next president should come from South, and then Nigerians are supposed to, on their own, reason which particular part of this country should produce this president based on their contribution to the polity of the APC, and then allow that part to emerge.
Right.
But we know that this is democracy. Everybody has the right to contest the presidency. But of course, we should also rely on our reasoning of what we want as Nigerians. We should not be having up to this number of people contesting for presidency.
Well, it's a democracy, as you say, but there must be winners and losers.
Yes.
What do you see happening if former governor of Lagos, Asiwaju Tinubu, doesn't get the ticket?
Well, I don't want to assume that he will not get the ticket, but he is the most matured person.
What do you see happening if he doesn't?
Well, I believe that as the leader of this party belongs to him.
Really?
He is the leader of this party, and the reason why I said so, he has contributed the highest to the formation of APC. And surely, I don't see Chief Tinubu destroying the structure that he has helped to put in place. So I believe that as a matured leader, he will accept in good faith. But of course, also, he deserves to be compensated for what he has done for APC and Nigeria. He has produced leaders. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed for coming on today. Mr. Atamas is the Publicity Secretary of the APC in Taraba State.
Well, our discussion started this morning about what are the issues that are of priority to you. You can see already that a lot of aspirants are marketing themselves to delegates for their party's convention and saying all the things that they will do, asking delegates to vote them in. But all of this underscores the importance of why it is important to focus on who it is that will be occupying this seat in 2023. We have another perspective this morning from Temilade Okesonjo, who is a founder of Identify the Right Leader. That's an interesting organization. What precisely are you doing? Are you going around and telling people what the qualities of a good leader are?
Thanks for having me. So Identify the Right Leader initiative is essentially a group of young people coming together to say that it's important for us as Nigerians to not only complain all the time or talk about why we don't want a particular leader, but it's also a responsibility for us to identify who we think is right to lead us. So essentially looking at people's leaders' track record, their pedigree, understanding what their impact has been, and also putting out the awareness to people to sort of see who we want to sort of influence the narrative about coming, especially for the presidential election.
And let me guess, this movement started when? Maybe really close to the elections? How old is Identify the Right Leader?
Yeah, just barely 1 year. So yes, it was obviously influenced by the presidential election. So for us, this 2023 is like a major step in the right direction for Nigerians. So we need to get it right this time.
Which presidential election, or the forthcoming one, or the last one?
This one.
This coming elections.
Yes.
So were you able to see any sort of thing close to the right leader that your group likes to identify from the president's speech?
So from the president's speech?
Yep.
Okay, from the president's speech, I think the president is solely concerned about the continuity, obviously, and he wants someone who will definitely move Nigeria forward, someone who's got the experience, someone who understands the problem, and someone who's gone through that
All those aspirants think they are the person the president is talking about.
How is that possible?
That's what they're contesting, isn't it?
Okay, so for me, I think away from the president's speech, I think whoever is going to become the next president of Nigeria must be able to have shown us what impact is made in Nigeria. I mean, like I said, we can't afford to gamble anymore. For me, this is it's almost like the last chance to get Nigeria right. So if we have a president who says he wants continuity, I'm not sure the continuity he's talking about is so much about same party or sort. I think it's more about who has worked this part with me. I mean, I personally think that. So I think it's more about who can fix the problems. And I think, obviously, the vice president has been a dependable deputy enough for all of us to see. So he obviously has the capacity to carry on and move Nigeria forward. Given that he's obviously the only aspirant who has been in that shoes. He's been able to govern Nigeria. This is not a state thing, obviously. So he has the experience that cuts across relationships with governors, ministers. He's been there, they've been through all these ordeals, and he probably can identify the solutions, better than anybody else.
At the moment, it is those delegates, they are the ones who eventually will go out there and take that decision. So is this group, young people, how do they get heard? Or how do you make an impact in ensuring that people see things the way you do, particularly those who will be taking that decision?
Okay, so, I mean, what we've done is to just give people a chance to decide who they think is the right leader. So what we've done is just basically tell them, for you to decide a right leader, you need to look at certain things. So how do you come up to say this person is right? What are the ingredients that you're looking for? What are we expecting in the next president of Nigeria? One of the most important things for me is empathy. We need a leader with a conscience. So we talk about the big issues we have in Nigeria, and I always say to people, some of these very big, difficult issues do not necessarily need the big solutions. It's just sometimes the conscience to actually do the right thing, basically.
Do you see that the fact that, the person who you've identified as a good leader, as the right leader, do you think that he'll be burdened, he'll have as a baggage the fact that he's been a part of this administration, and that, when it comes to security, there have been many questions as to the capacity of the state, and he's no less a vice president in this administration. How do you think that he's going to be able to get past that hurdle of justifying how all of this has happened in an administration that he's a part of?
So for me, I think it's a plus for him, because being a part of this government, His Excellency is had the chance to, for me, act as president, and for me that's the most important part to delegates or to Nigerians about deciding who is going to be the next president. So yeah, security challenges. I hear that the president recently, made him champion a particular initiative that actually talks about changing and reforming the architecture, the security architecture of Nigeria. And I know that he's been able to prove to us in so many ways. Of course, his role as an acting president, he did exceptionally well. So one of the biggest issues we have, again, is economy issues. And he's been able to prove himself. I mean, when he was acting president, Naira gained against the dollar, within a short period of time. So for me, I think we need to start getting a bit more realistic about what do we need at this point and who can give it to us. So his role being a part of this government, I believe that he can actually move things forward because he's had a chance to prove that to us.
Add to that the perspective of a lot of other young people who think, you know what, we're just tired of APC and the PDP. We want something new. How do you deal with that?
I think the vice president is something new. Obviously, I think it's something new. I think he represents or is sort of a voice for the youth. He's done exceptionally well trying to, put out, a lot of things for the youth, and the youth really love him. So,
what makes you think he's going to be any different? Because he's still within the same structure that's going to throw him up. So he's not going to go against all of that structure.
I think we talked about that already, because what is important to you as a Nigerian? And we talk about delegates as though there's some sort of angels. They're also Nigerians.
No, I'm not talking about delegates.
I'm talking about the
governance structure.
So I'm talking about the people who they practically have the power right now to choose for us who is going to be the next president. They obviously influence to a large extent. So these people are also Nigerians who understand the problems and understand who can. And again, you know, we look at this as a party. I think what's most important to, or what should be most important to APC right now is who can win the party or who can retain the party for APC. And of course, everything just boils down to the vice president.
In fairness to the person of the vice president, or even people who speak about him in the opposition usually have pretty kind words for him. I mean, in terms of his person, everybody says, oh, he's a decent man. But many people say that, oh, he's perhaps too decent to be able to carry out the work that needs to be done presently. I'm sure you must have heard that. That perhaps he might not be steeped enough in the politics of that of the APC, one, and also the kind of politics that Nigeria currently needs at the moment to get things going. Have you heard that, and how are you responding to that?
And I'm wondering, what sort of politics do we need to get things going? Do we need dirty politics? Because if you're saying someone is decent, I think we need pretty decent politics. And I think he's played that as a deputy with the president. For me, I'm just looking at, what did you do? I mean, why do you come to me and say you want to be the president of Nigeria where I can't really? And then they identified the right leader. Sorry, I forgot. We actually put out this for him. We came together to put out the unveiling Oshibajo, if empowered. And this talks about His Excellency's journey in governance from when he was, you know, special advisor to the Attorney General at the time to when he was Attorney General himself. And then Vice President, his role as acting president. And we sort of looked at the projects that the president really gave him, the projects he championed, like the trader money, N-Power, the economy sustainability plan, a lot more other projects, even when he was in Lagos State. And we isolated the impact of this project. So for me, government is, especially the Nigerian government, they're usually about the achievement. You know, you quickly put out the achievement. But what's an achievement without an impact report? So that's why we have a lot of, if you would go through the book, it's on our website, and then you read more about it.
So as the delegates go out tomorrow, you're optimistic that perhaps they could be selecting your preferred aspirant?
I'm absolutely optimistic. And I'm sure that the president, having fought corruption for 7 years, will not hand over Nigeria to a corrupt leader. That's one thing Nigerians are very confident about, basically.
Well, we'll see how matters eventually pan out tomorrow. We'll have to thank you very much for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Temilade Okesanjo is the founder of Identify the Right Leader. Thank you so much once again.
Thanks for having me.
We've got His Excellency Dave Umahi, presidential aspirant of the APC, governor of Ebonyi State, and chairman, Southeast Governors Forum. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, at a point in time yesterday, there was that...
Good morning, Chamberlain.
Yeah, that item circulating that you had stepped down, and several questions were being asked up until they then saw the subsequent communication that that was not true. But at the moment, many still wonder what the current position is in terms of the thinking of the party, where this should come from. So much as there are some denials as to whether or not the president or governors have agreed that it come from the south, others think, look, there are some front runners, while some others have considered a particular candidate. What is the latest thinking about some of these, if you can tell us?
Chamberlain, thank you very much, and good to have you back online. Good morning, Nigerians. I wouldn't know the latest thinkings of, our party leaders and delegates and supporters. But if you look at what the northern governors, some of them said, they say for the sake of justice, equity, and fairness, this thing should be rotated between north and south. And my position has been that you don't, start on the vehicle of justice, equity, and fairness, and you get to the road, you stop it. You have to take it to its destination, and the destination is which zone from the south should produce the next president. And I think the southeast sticks out in the entire south as the zone that has not produced an elected president and should be given the opportunity. This is my thinking, and
in other words,
this is the thinking of a lot of Nigerians.
So can we say for sure, can you tell us if it's southwest favored or southeast favored? Is there any clarity in that regard?
It's not in my position to know because neither the party nor the leader of the party, Mr. President, has made any indication, and as people would say, body language. So there is none of such for now.
But some say that they can read the body language of the president and he's tilted towards a particular candidate. Is that right?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
I'm just curious, Your Excellency. I know that you had a meeting with another aspirant, Senate President Ahmed Lawan. I think that happened just on Friday here. And shortly after, there were speculations that you had stepped down for the Senate President, which you later came out to debunk. But can you tell us what exactly the meeting was about?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mokbe. Mr. President, had advised us to consult among ourselves. And even before that advice was offered by the leader of the party, Mr. President, we had been consulted, among ourselves. I can tell you that about 3 weeks back, I had visited the Senate President, and I can tell you that I had visited not less than 10 aspirants. And one thing was, recurring in those meetings, and the faithfulness of, the aspirants, to whatever decision the leader of the party, Mr. President, and the party may come up with. And that's what we meet to assure ourselves, and to pledge, our commitment that whoever emerges amongst us, that we're going to abide by that decision and give support. And that's all that happened. And so the Senate President first spoke and said, look, if you are the consensus candidate and you emerge, I will be the #1 person to support you. And I had to return the same gesture to the Senate President. So it's all about politics. It's the third time that is happening, to me by the media. And it shows, that I'm the man to beat, and it shows that I'm frightening some people who are doing this. And so I'm not disturbed, and you should be asking the basis for my stepping down on what ground and for what reasons.
Well, I haven't doubted the fact that you haven't stepped down. If you say you haven't stepped down, then you haven't stepped down. I'm just curious as to how that's, how that came about. But when candidates, when aspirants meet themselves and they say, oh, if you're the one who emerges, I will step down for you. Through what process are you hoping that that particular candidate or whoever it is that emerges? I'm just curious. How is the person supposed to emerge if all the aspirants do not meet amongst themselves to maybe make that decision? Are you looking to higher authority? Are you looking to, what precisely are you looking at?
Well, I'm as curious as yourself because from the one, the party failed to set up criteria for whoever is going to be the candidate of the party. You know, let me tell you that the criteria that the party may set up may be different from the criteria that Nigerians are looking, you know, for in whoever that is going to be the next president. So when I hear people and they say this is a super aspirant, you know, on what basis? So you may produce, you know, a candidate of the party by reason of, you know, the criteria of the supporters of the candidate or the aspirant within the APC, and then that candidate is not sellable, because Nigerians, you know, have set their own criteria, and they are not going to be asking you how much money you have, and because you have to explain where you got the money. They will be asking for the past position you held. What have you done with such position? Do you have the love for the people? How did you demonstrate it? Do you have courage? And so on and so forth. So when people say, look, you select, you know, a candidate of the party based on investment in the party, such investment should be returned with patronage, not, you know, one of the criteria for being the candidate of the party. And so I think
Your
that
Excellency, let me
the party would have looked at.
Some people will say that you're relatively new to the APC, and that if there's a criteria that people are looking at, that you, in terms of maybe who has stayed the longest in the party, those who were part of the party when it was founded, etc., that you have only just come. Why do you think that, you know, of all the people, you will get it?
I should be asking whether it is what you're looking for to improve on what Mr. President has done is based on the length of time that somebody has stayed in the party. I thought that you know, the media and the APC should be looking at the criteria, you know, of who is sellable to Nigerians, not who is sellable to APC, because right now, APC divided along the lines of interest, along the line of, you look, I'm supporting this candidate, I'm supporting this candidate. But that is not what Nigerians will be looking at. So that I came just new is not a qualification or disqualification to be the candidate of the party. And so we need to get it clear what we are looking, you know, for. That's my position.
Well, in addition to that, Your Excellency, you know, some think that when you join and you're taking a shot straight at the presidency, you must have been promised something. But let me ask this, if you'd like to respond to that as well. There are several meetings that have been going on between the governors, the president, different leaders in the party. What do you think, or what is the understanding of the aspirants of that president's letter where he says, allow me to have that opportunity to also choose my successor, having allowed governors and outgoing governors do almost same? Is it that he wants the aspirants to agree amongst themselves, support somebody, then he will approve or endorse or also support, and then they move on and let the delegates elect? Or he wants them to see that, look, this is the person I like to, can we all just see how we can rally behind that person, then they move on to the delegates and then they vote and ratify according to how the Constitution explains it? What's the understanding from your perspective?
Well, my understanding of that particular paragraph is that Mr. President, you know, wants to take leadership, and of course, as the leader of the party, in this particular process, he wants to be the driver. And what he's saying is not that, look, I'm going to stay in my bedroom and I'll write the name of one person and I will say to the entire party people, please, this is my choice. That is not what he's saying. In the process that the governors, you know, made their choices, so to say, there were consultations, you know, there were meetings, and so on and so forth. So Mr. President has a lot of information which is not available to, you know, each and every one of us. You think about a security report, you think about the ratings, you know, by the screening committee, you think about, you know, the mood of the nation and what Nigerians will be looking out for. And so you will put all these things together, and then we now be coming up to say, look, I believe that these are the qualities of the person that is going to take us to victory, should possess. I think that's exactly what Mr. President is saying.
Well, Your Excellency, one of the things that you've also been quoted as saying is you're praying that, Nigeria should not have a politician for its next president. And that you are a professional, you are an engineer, and you don't think engineers have ever been allowed to govern the country. But then there are those who would also say, but you're a politician as well. How would you respond?
I don't think you heard what the question is.
Okay, well, Your Excellency, can you hear me?
Yeah, I did hear him, Chamberlain. Can you...
Okay, can you hear me now, Your Excellency? Well, I'm not sure His Excellency hear me because, well...
All right, if I could just, Ayo, let me jump in and see how, I hope you can hear me, Your Excellency. He's asking, you were quoted to have said, you don't want a you hope that it will not drop on the laps of a politician, that there's certain persons who should fit that position. But he says, look, you are also a politician, so what did you mean by that comment of yours?
I didn't get you. Can you ask that question again?
Well, he was saying that he came across your comments where you had said, Nigeria doesn't just need a politician. There's certain kinds of people that should fit the bill. So I think he was asking why you think you fit that bill, given that you are also a politician.
I'm not sure that I made that statement, but let me tell you something similar to that transpired. Mr. Senate President had said that given the pedigree of, my performance as governor of Ebonyi State, he thinks that, I fit into the manifesto of APC and what Nigerians are looking for. And I, in turn, say, look, that he shares a good character and that if he is the one, I will not have a problem and he will be sellable. That's exactly what happened. They were kind words to each other.
Well, I'm sure you've also have read some of the response or the comments of former governor of Lagos, Bola Tinubu, about what should happen and where he thinks the pendulum should swing, and then the subsequent comments coming through. So that, because some think, look, if he doesn't get the ticket, that may not mean or spell good for your party, because it's going to be incredibly important who gets that ticket, because they need to defeat the opposition who have elected Atiku Abubakar.
I didn't get the last lap of it, but let me say that, every member of APC is very important for the victory of APC in the forthcoming 2023 election. And I can say for sure that His Excellency Bola Tinubu is very much important in the success of APC, just like myself and just like the governors, just like the president, and so on and so forth, including the delegates. So I believe strongly that APC belongs to all APC members, and that party supremacy and the commitment to the rules of the party should be uppermost in our hearts. And so I believe strongly that when God's given, consensus candidate emerges, that everybody is going to play along, irrespective of who God has chosen.
Let me go back to your first question, Your Excellency, your first statement to response to some of the questions that my colleagues there with you in Abuja asked. What, in your opinion, are the chances of the Southeast becoming a Southeastern president emerging in the 2023 elections, beginning actually from the candidature on the platform of the APC, seeing what you have seen and the meetings that have held among governors?
I lost him again. I can't hear him. Chamberlain, can you help out?
Okay. I'm afraid well, Your Excellency, if I could also ask this one. The last bit of your response suggested you saying when or if a consensus candidate comes in, is the party going for a consensus or is there going to be indirect primaries?
Well, consensus building has been part of the culture of APC and the political parties. I believe strongly that APC is not going to do what PDP did. Should APC go the way of PDP during their last convention, then I will say, look, there is a very serious problem for our country, Nigeria. So I believe strongly that the way we came out of convention for the national chairman is the way we will come out of the convention for the choice of our candidate for 2023. I believe strongly, and we all pledged to that during the screening, that whoever that emerges, through consensus building, that we abide by that. So no one is more important by the assessment of each and every one of us. But when you set a criteria, like I say from the beginning, then people begin to know whether I fit into this. Like if you say, okay, one of the criteria is, public, appearance in a way of, public engagement, and then what you were able to achieve in those engagements, then some people may not fit in. If you say you're looking for a religious person to drive this the ticket, then some people may not also fit in. So there should have been criteria set, for who will fly this thing. And you set the criteria based on what you believe that Nigerians are looking for, in a way of qualities, for their next president.
I'm just curious right now. They're having lots of meetings, we've seen the president meet with APC governors, he's met with all the aspirants. The last statement said something about him pretty confident of, APC winning their third consecutive victory. From all that we have seen so far, I mean, is there are you seeing any consensus emerging from all of the aspirants? Are you seeing from all the engagements, you have been a part of the meeting of APC governors, you have been a part of the meeting with APC aspirants as well. Have you seen any tilt towards a certain aspirant?
For now, as an aspirant, I may not be seen. You may even be seen better than I do see. But the point remains, like I said before, that Mr. President has a lot of information. The party chairman has a lot of information. We all fill forms. We all indicated, our qualities and our past performances and our present position. And so there was screening, and they asked a lot of questions. It was a very useful engagement. And then Mr. President has security report and so on and so forth. So I think all these things will be put together, together with engagement of aspirants among themselves, and this will melt down to a possible consensus candidate, or maybe few aspirants that may have to stand election.
I was going to ask you what the stance of APC Northern governors did for, or governors in the North and the APC did for candidature within your party. Did it narrow down the search? Because even though some people say they have not yet received the memo or that they're not a part of it, but how did you receive that as an aspirant yourself?
Well, it is a very good development, and I want to commend them very highly, even though they should have consulted with Mr. President so that Mr. President will have a buy-in as the leader of the party, and also the buy-in of the rest of the northern governors. And so we shouldn't have been seeing dissenting voices right now. But I think it's a good step in the right direction, and I want to honestly commend them.
Your Excellency, we're wrapping up right now, and I'd just like to ask you in 30 seconds, if you can, what you hope to see tomorrow. Are you thinking that the delegates will just come to ratify a particular candidate, or are you still hoping that they would go down as it did with the PDP?
Well, I see within the next 12 hours to 24 hours, I see God manifesting himself. and a consensus candidate emerging in a very peaceful process, and a process that is acceptable to all the aspirants, or at least most of the aspirants. Nobody is bigger than the party. We must abide by, the rules of the party, and that is consensus building, and then respect for the leadership of the party, and of course for Nigerians.
All right, then we do thank you very much, Your Excellency Dave Umahi, presidential aspirant of the APC, Governor of Ebonyi State, and Chairman, Southeast Governors Forum. Thank you for your time and all the best.
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. Right. Thank you, and God bless you.
Well, most certainly so many of your messages on our Twitter handle that you can quickly follow up on. But right now, we have to anchor the show at this point. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful week. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Of course, make it count. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. We certainly will keep you updated on all that transpires at the APC primary starting from tonight. So do stay tuned to Channels Television.
I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.